Welcome to Dad School Podcast. I am Josh, and that is Jimmy. And we are here to talk to you today about all things dads. That's the
All the
general.
things.
Oh yeah, all things dads. But more particularly, uh, you know, I don't want to like lose half of our two viewers by saying mental health, but I'm going to say mental health, and we're going to see where we go with this. I'm going to start off this whole episode. We are not mental health experts. Mm-mm. In fact, I'm not going to even say that. We're not experts on a lot of things, but we can have a conversation about what we do know, and we have a conversation about things that we recognize are happening in society. We can talk about things we recognize happening in our own homes, and hopefully provide some guidance on to other dads, on what they can keep an eye out for, and what they can maybe reach out to other dads and help them with. So that's the goal of this show today. Um, when we were kids, Jimmy, did our dads talk to us about mental health ever?
Yeah, I don't think that was a phrase that I heard in my childhood,
So this is one of
to be
those
honest.
new phrases, right?
Huh? Yeah, those
It's one
newfangled
of those.
phrases.
Okay. So like, I don't know. My dad's not like a. My dad is definitely not a jerk. My dad's a nice guy. He treated me very well growing up, but he had the same mentality like every other dad probably of that generation. Of you fall on the ground, you get a scrape on your knee, rub some dirt on it, and get up and go play. Right. I remember specifically a moment in a parking lot. Uh, I was skipping around and playing around in the parking lot. I was young, and we were walking into I think it was Grandpa Pigeons. I mean, I don't remember those at all, but an old store, and I tripped on a speed bump, and I
Oh
scraped the
goodness.
living Jesus out of my knee. It was blood. It was bad. My dad looked down at me, and he's just like, "Come on, get up. You'll be fine." And walked through the store with a bloody knee. And this is how it was, right? And this is not all about self-aid buddy care and CPR on your kids as you walk into a store, but it's contrasting. Um, Back in the day, people thought differently about how you should act as a man, right? It wasn't as um, I want to say soft as it is today. I'm going to go step out there and say that men in society nowadays have gotten softer, and
Mm.
it's it's hard. What's the phrase? I mean, I said it last time, and it was hard, and I'm going to try it again, Jimmy. Soft men create hard times. Hard times create hard. I messed it
Strong
up.
man.
Strong men. There we go. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times, easy times, and easy times create weak men. So I went back from soft to weak. I consider them the same.
There
And
you
then
go.
weak men, it goes in a circle. You see how that works, Jimmy? It goes in a circle, and and it
Yeah.
just doesn't stop. So, um, the imagery, and I know Jimmy has a couple ideas behind this of like how Hollywood has helped with this. How has Hollywood helped the stoic dad image today, Jimmy?
Well, yeah. I didn't know we'd
Has
go
it
down
helped?
this brief rabbit trail real quick. My thoughts on like Hollywood movies, stories, in particular, just like the superhero genre and that those sorts of movies and stuff. It's kind of how every culture that has existed has a mechanism for passing down and portraying their um, what they consider the ideal man, or just the character traits that they want to pass down. So we have old myths of heroes doing fantastic things, and you can tell by a society through history what was important to them by looking at their mythologies and stuff like that. Um, so I kind of see, in particular, the Marvel movies up until Endgame. Ever since then, it's been a different story. Like the Marvel movies were characters with they were flawed. They had their own struggles and challenges that they had to overcome. They had to work together as a team, and it was passing on some really cool. I felt really good character lessons, some things for kids to look up to, and then movies have just gotten weird lately, and not passing forward. It seems like someone has realized, hey, these are passing forward things that we don't want to talk about. So let's change the dynamic a little bit, and so it's getting a little it's not hitting the soul the same way that it did, especially for men, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be like a large misogynist stereotype kind of comments and podcast at this moment, but let's just look at like you have the stark difference between Hercules, like someone who muscle bound and can handle anything, or like even like the Duke, on like old cowboy westerns. You have a person who knows how to handle themselves, is confident, goes around. I mean, yes, you got to take it with the times it was in, right? It was they had their own issues in how they portrayed men, obviously, but it was like a lot of sex and romance, and it was testosterone and then nowadays you don't see that anymore, really. Like you don't see an alpha male in a movie. I mean, yeah, like Reacher, that's probably as alpha as you get in ever. I agree, and that's why it's so good, in my opinion. It's not a good movie, but it's good. I think it it's hard because you have. I'm trying to think of another movie that does not have this now. Like, do you have any on the top of your head, Jimmy? Right in the spotlight here.
Yeah, I mean, Top Gun Maverick was pretty sweet when it came out a few years ago.
Top Gun Maverick. Okay. Well, I mean, that was still a bunch of alpha males.
Yeah,
Yeah. Here,
I don't watch hardly any movies
go the
anymore.
other
So.
way, Jimmy.
Oh, other way, soft movies.
Yeah, soft movies. The point being, a lot of times it is portrayed that it's okay to not be the end all see all alpha male in a situation. Okay. And it's gonna sound like a little weird right now, since we're talking about mental health and identity and whatnot in this particular section. But you got to be cautious of that. You got to keep that in mind in today's society, right? I believe maybe going the Hollywood route here of front Jim was a mistake. Maybe we should focus more on like the social, because it's like it's a social thing. You see it online. You see, if you're really in tune with social medias, you will see a push. The feminism movement over the past decade plus has pushed for females in the workplace, changing the gender roles per se, changing men to be stay-at-home nannies, and women go out in the workplace and make their plot in life, right? And I'm not saying women can't go out and make a role for themselves in society if they want to. That's a choice that they can make. I'm speaking to, how do dads handle this as a dad? Okay, as a dad, um, were we told growing up that we should put our emotions out there and be vulnerable? Should we be softer? I don't think we were. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I
well, I
wasn't.
don't even know if being open with who you are emotionally, what's going on in your life, what your challenges are, your pitfalls, difficulties. Um, I think there's even just a challenge of linking that to being softer as a man. And I don't
Okay.
think, because I think softness almost portrays a sense of weakness or lesser than sort of connotation. And I don't think being in touch with just who you are, what's going on, being honest with, okay, I'm struggling in this area. I need
Mhm.
someone to talk to. I need someone to walk through this with me. I've got my brother in my back pocket that we've been through some stuff. We've seen some stuff. He's who I can go to in a time of trouble. I don't think that's a sign of softness or weakness. And I think that's part of the trope that we're wanting to push against.
Yes. So now that you called out that stigma blatantly,
There you
um,
go.
what is the difference then? in what you just said. Like when a guy has an issue and it's a legit issue, he is struggling with something because we us alpha males in our household, we struggle with things sometimes. We might have something that bothers us. We might not even know what it is. We could just be upset about something, you know. But how do we transform that, Jimmy, into um, we have a problem. We want to talk to someone about our problem, but we don't want to lose the perception of being in control and command of our household.
Yeah, I think there's a phrase out there that no man is an island. I don't know if you've heard that. Maybe that was tossed around more in the
What about an
olden days.
atoll or
Yeah,
a
yeah,
group of islands?
but exactly. But I mean, the idea is no man really is out there on his own and should be going through life as though he's completely on his own and I got this. I can handle everything. I don't need anyone. I don't need anything. Everyone just leave me alone and I'll take care of this. I think there absolutely has been through several generations that tends to be how a lot of men grow up, and when they get into adulthood end up taking strides through life as though they're an island and don't need anyone else, don't need any other connection or support. And it almost always ends in struggle, difficulty, and almost perpetual failure. Whenever we think that we don't need anyone else, we don't need anything else, and we can't figure out why is nothing clicking, why is nothing going my way. I'm pushing so hard, I'm trying so hard, I'm just gritting my teeth and bearing it, and nothing is working out, and I feel miserable. um, like, oh, because maybe we don't have community, we don't have I mean, here's a trigger word for brotherly relationships. I don't have intimacy with anyone else other than my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to. I think that's kind of what we need to push against a little bit.
Okay. So, do you think, and this is just an off the cuff question for you, Jimmy, because I like doing this to you. Do you think it's possible for a dude, a guy, a dad, to be surrounded with 2 to 3 close friends, and by close friend, I'm going to say it's somebody that you probably talk to multiple times a week about things going on in your life, not just hey, and they reply back with "sup, bro." You know, it's more like hey, how'd that go the other night? Are you doing okay? Do you think it's possible that a guy with 2 to 3 people like that in their life can have loneliness and depression still?
That are just having the 5 second "Hey, what's up, bro" conversation.
Well, no, no. Someone with the close intimate, like you just said. I would define a
Oh,
close friend as someone who actually reaches out to you instead of you having to reach out to them every single time, right? Would that be like a good basis for a good friend versus somebody who is not, who is just an acquaintance,
yeah,
I would say, or a decent friend but not a friend?
right. I think definitely having those people who are intentional and reciprocal, and it's not a one way street or just completely on your own without anyone that you're having any sort of connection with. It absolutely makes a difference.
Right. And I said it that way backwards and confusing. Sorry. Because I wanted to point out that if you have people in your life surrounding you and you're saying, oh, I got friends, I'm fine. So this didn't apply to me, Josh and Jimmy. You can just keep talking to those other guys. Evaluate your friend right now. Like, evaluate your friend list. Do you have friends who actively check on you? Okay. And then that reciprocates. Are you actively checking on your friends? Like, do you have those people that you scroll through on your phone and you reach out to every single week? If not, maybe you should. Maybe you should take this moment to write those names down, or think about, I'm going to do that when I stop driving to work right now, or whatever you're doing. Um, because that's the important thing in this day and age is we need to have those connections. And the only way to build those connections is to make sure that you're modeling that yourself. So if you don't have anybody that checks in on you, that's sad, and I'm sorry. Please message Jimmy and Josh, dadschoolpodcast.com, and we will check in on you. Okay. Um, if you don't check in on other people, maybe you should start. And then maybe they'll start checking in on you. So it's a community, like Jimmy said. But I'm just pushing the point that you need to be thinking about these kind of things, evaluating your friends in your life, and just making sure you guys are checking up on each other, staying active with each other, because people, you hear the standard thing from people. This person's a true friend. I can stop talking to them for 6 years, come back, and then we have conversations like we never left. It's like, that's great. How they doing? How are they doing though? Because it would, and I'm trying not to be like too morbid here, but it's a real thing in our society. How would you feel if five years into that 6 year dry spell you guys always have, 5 years in, your friend commits suicide? That's a harsh thing to say, and I'm sorry if someone's upset with me saying that, but it's reality. If someone out there is struggling and you don't look in on them, that could have helped. And that's how you should always approach everybody. Everyone's struggling with somebody, everybody's struggling with something somewhere. And you reaching out to somebody at any moment can be the difference between them having a terrible day and thinking no one cares about them versus, hey, this dude actually cared enough to reach out to me today. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And if you need biblical foundation for this decision, because you, like Josh and Jimmy, don't know what they're talking about, why should I listen to Josh and Jimmy? Well, we tell you, Psalm 34:18. Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Okay, it means that no matter if you are down in the dumps or if you're not, Lord is still near you. It doesn't matter. So you should take comfort in knowing that, and you should definitely do your part and reach out to somebody else. So, moving on before Josh beats this dead horse anymore. Okay. So, tell us about burnout, Jimmy. Do you ever experience burnout?
Oh, it happens.
I'm not talking about like
That's
the
that's
weird
the extent
like
of my.
the feeling you get in your drawers when you're working too hard on a hot day. I'm not talking about that. Okay.
Oh no, that's a horrible one. No, yeah, I mean, life. Sometimes you just get stuck in a rut. Sometimes things are just mundane or normal. Sometimes a random curveball gets thrown your way. The unexpected can be challenging, can be difficult, can be something that's really hard to manage on your own. And so, where do you go with that? I hope that most of the men that are getting to listen to us are in a committed relationship, if not married, since this is a podcast mostly about being a dad. Hopefully you're in a committed marriage relationship, but even outside of just your marriage, which should be the most intimate conversations that you have with another person, whenever this burnout comes up in life, oftentimes a big piece of that is that feeling of loneliness. Like I'm on my own. I don't have anyone else in my corner. I just have to trudge through and just keep pushing through, and I'm on my own. And it's just a really depressing spot to be in. And so, yeah, taking stock of who are the other men who are kind of in my orbit, and who can I be reaching out to, whether it's someone that I see regularly because we're in the same community, or like you're saying, the old friend that you're still connected on Facebook, or you still have their phone number and you can text. There are avenues and there are ways of still keeping community happening through that burnout time.
Absolutely. And so part of I don't know if anybody knew this or not, but when you're a dad, you have kids. That's what makes you a dad, right? Um, so it's a different transition in our lives as guys. Um, Before we had kids, we we could act differently, and let's just call it like it is. We can be more spontaneous, wilder. We can, you know, go places, do things we want to do. We could have different life ambitions and life goals. And the weight of the realization on a dad whenever you see your kid, right, whether it took you a while to figure this out or you saw it immediately when you first saw your baby, your new son or daughter, um, and you realize that your life's ambitions changed. Like your goals in life should, and if they haven't yet, you're still trying to figure this out. I'm sorry, it's going to happen to you, and there's going to be a moment where you realize this. Hopefully, that your child's well-being and future is more important than yours. It's a hard reality for a young dad especially, to realize that all their hopes and dreams of being this or that might not happen. You have to accept that. Like, I'm not saying that you have kids, your life's over, because that's not what I'm trying to say here.
You're on a difficult line right here. Yeah, yeah.
I know. I'm like tiptoeing because it all, it's possible. It's possible to still achieve your life goals and be successful. But I'm just saying, unless your life goals were already to take care of your family and your kids, unless that was the top of your life goals already, you have to change what you're doing. You have to.
I think what you're wanting to get to is just priorities. Absolutely.
Yes.
Alter and change when you have
Alter and change.
when you have another generation that you are responsible for. Because I mean, we see it, I think, out in the community. You see it in Hollywood and TV and stuff where people do, at the expense of any other relationship or any other thing that's important in their life, pursue their own personal goals to the detriment of their family, of their kids. And you see the type of kids that come out of that home are usually a mess. And so, yeah, there's that balance. There's that balance of burnout can happen because you feel like you're not getting anywhere, but then we still have our families that, like you're saying, like we're responsible for that next generation. We want to have them succeed and built up for a successful, fulfilling life in their future. So is there a way that we can couple together, building together a successful and fulfilling life for them, and realizing my role as a dad can be a piece of that successful fulfillment in my own life, and be getting that there instead of chasing some crazy huge thing to the detriment of everyone else in my home.
Right. And expanding upon that, because that was a great setup to this next kind of it's going to be hard to talk about for some people. When you have that shift in mentality that we're talking about, and you realize things, whether you realize it or not, it's going to happen. Your life changes. Your wife, her priorities probably changed faster than yours did. It happens, but your dynamic in your household is going to change. And as a dad, you got to be aware of this, and whether you want to admit it or not, because I have fallen into this exact same trap. I have used the phrase to my wife, and I have a 14-year-old. This has been going on for a while. Like, I've been a dad for 14 years at least. And I've used this phrase at least, yes. I think it works that way. I've used the phrase, I haven't changed, you changed, to my wife. And the context is important in that and how I used it, but the meaning's the same. I wasn't recognizing that the situation in our life has changed. I was not recognizing that in the argument because I wanted something. I wanted to have a similar lifestyle of and caring with my wife that I had before kids, and it was different. It's changed. Intimacy changes. Time together changes. Your priorities change big time. More pressure on you as a dad. You need to step up more and do more things to help out. I remember in the early days when we first had our very first house together, and life was like sunshine coming through the curtains all the time, and it just felt like a different age in my life. I remember it was like I had the outside responsibilities. This is not how you should always do it, but this is how our house did it. My wife and I, we decided this early on before kids. My wife would clean the house inside. I would not be a slob and throw crap around. I'd help out as well, But for the majority, like she would take care of the inside, I'd take care of the outside. I did the grass, I did the front, I did the back, I did everything. She had to remind me a couple times to do it. Yes, I'm not going to admit that wasn't happening. But the inside, I didn't have to worry about the floors; they were cleaned, and it was a good, good balance. I'm not saying that's how it should be. I'm just says how we did it. Um, but you know what? When you have kids, everything changes. Everything changes, and your wife has to deal with kid stuff sometimes, and you have to deal with kid stuff sometimes. It should be joint, taking care of your kids. It shouldn't be like you draw battle lines and you deal with the kids, I deal with the house, and you shouldn't do that either. I don't think so. That's how I would recommend it. Um, but the point I'm trying to make is everything changes, and you have to be flexible as a dude, as a guy. You need to recognize that, hey, if you need to step up and do dishes every single day because that takes that burden off of your wife, then do that. Be the man and step up and do that and help your family out. It's not there's no room for that's not my job in a well operating family household. I very much disagree with the get home from work, prop your feet up on the chair, uh, and expect a beer in your hand and dinner on the table in an hour. I highly, highly am against that mentality, and that is a Hollywood stereotype, I think, and that might be a little bit of a truth and reality from the olden days as well. I'm not gonna say it's not, but I don't think that works in a well functioning household, honestly. Um, but all that being said, things change when you have kids. And I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom. You should not have kids. I'm saying just expect it and be able to roll with the punches and recognize that things will never be the same as they were before, and that's okay. You know, recognize that you need to be more intentional with your wife planning date nights. You need to have the foresight to structure your family's activities around a Sabbath type rest day of some time in the week, a structured, we as a family will be together and do something. I think you and your family do this, right, Jimmy? Like you guys have certain time or day that you guys don't plan things most of the time, like if you can help it, so you guys can do things together.
I mean, it's not a set cadence because our schedules are now that we get a teenager in the home and everything else that's going on in life. Like I wish it was more regular, like predictable, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. We make it happen. We make family time a priority, that we are doing things, the four of us. But
So
yeah,
even
unfortunately
with
it's
a,
not
a
like
tight
that.
schedule, you are able to be intentional
We
about
carve it
it, which
out.
is, yeah, you make that time. Um, yeah, it's something that I think I could work on in our family a little bit. But because we our family has gotten into this routines, we see each other a lot at homeschool. So I think it's a different dynamic. If you don't have homeschool in your life like we do, um, I can only imagine. Like my heart goes out to some families who send their kids off to school all day and don't see them, and then go to work. And it's just the I did that a long time ago. We didn't before we had kids. I used to go to work and work all day in an office and come home and then see my wife, and then she would go to bed and I'd go to bed, and then in the morning she'd be at work already. I didn't go work as soon as she did. So it was a different dynamic back before we had kids. When we had kids, things started changing. They went to daycare. I wouldn't see them all day and still be at work. So I mean, it was different, and it's way different than right now for me. I'm able to, at any moment during my day, which is a blessing. I don't think it's a curse. It's a blessing, 100% blessing. I love it. It's like the most happiest I've been in forever with kids. I'm able to get up from my office in my basement, go upstairs, get a glass of water, and hug each of my kids anytime of the day I want. It is the greatest thing
Hmm.
ever. I can get a hug multiple times during the day. They come down, they check on me, and they say, "How you doing, Dad?" That's great. That's the style, the family we have. So I think with our family, because we're always around each other. I think it's okay if our rest as a family time is a little bit different. But I highly encourage. I mean, that's my personal. I think we're together and we do a really good job of being together right now. Like we're not fighting all the time. We're having good times. But as a dad, I think you should keep your eyes out that if your family is struggling with something like you're noticing a lot of bickering, tension with your wife, tension with your wife and your kids. Do you see them fighting a little bit and having tension, or you're having tension with your kids? Take a step back and think: am I taking my wife out on one-on-one date time enough? You might not be. That might be a big thing of like why there's tension. You know, are am I carving out family time? And it might sound corny to like, let's play a board game, let's go to the movie together and do something together intentionally. Am I doing that? Because if you're not, that could be contributing to why you're seeing tensions in your family. There's little things you can look for. If you feel like, man, we're always just so busy, and man, we're always, I'm like, not looking forward to talking to someone because it's just end up in a fight. These are things you can think about. Another thing, you mentioned activities, Jimmy, and we have our ton of sports and activities we do as well. Like our Saturdays, completely gone nowadays. We got 2 volleyball games, 1 to 2 soccer games, and then if there's something else going on, it's like, well, there goes the whole day.
Yeah.
Do you have too much of that in your life? Is there too much sports in your life? Are there other activities you're agreeing to? Say no to something and go and do a family activity, or say no to something and sit home and watch a movie together.
And that thought of burnout, I think we see it often in adults in particular.
Yeah.
Something that runs through my mind is how often do we unintentionally, but still happens, how much are we building in burnout into our children's life, that this is my normal and I'm going to help make it your normal as you're growing up, that we just place so much on our calendars, on our to-do lists, and like it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we're just gonna we're actually getting short on time. I think you have a hard time cut off today, don't you, Jimmy? So
Yeah.
let me spearhead forward here, and it's kind of all ties in together. Things you can do as a dad, if you're noticing these things, if you're noticing any of these things we're talking about, you are already winning, because it is the hardest thing to self-evaluate your own family and your own actions when it could mean that you are part of the problem. I'm not saying you're part of the problem, get out of their lives. No, stay in their lives, stay active. That's not what we're saying. But you need to, if you're already looking and thinking this way, that's good. If you're not, this is your wake-up call. Start thinking that way. Start thinking critically of what can I do in my family's life to make it better for everybody, and what things are stressing people out, and look at it critically. And if your answer is there's nothing we can cut, there's nothing we can do, baloney. You can always cut something. You can always do something different. And if your life is that tied up that you can't cut something, then you need to sit down with your spouse and have some really hard conversations with them, as a couple, and say, hey, I don't think we need to be pushing this hard in our lives. We need to focus more on God, more on our family, and start there again. And then if we add more things in after that, then we can. But you shouldn't have long stints as a family where you're not doing things together and you're just going through the motions. Okay. So ways you can evaluate this, Dad, real fast is you can talk to your kids. I mean, it sounds crazy. Talk to your kids and see how they're doing. Check in with them. Schedule check-in times every week if you can. Just, hey, how you doing? What do you think about our schedules? Ask some blatant questions. Your kids, unless they're like 5 years old and really just give you an answer of like candy and Pokemon every single time you ask them a question, they should be able to tell you how they're feeling a little bit about something. If they like it or not, they can still express that all the way up to adult kids and past. You can communicate with them and you can get a sense of how they're doing. And you can update. Don't be hyper overreactive if they say they're having a bad day and you change your entire life schedule, but you just keep it in your mind. Thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think the family check-in is, absolutely important. Like, having open dialogue, making sure your kids understand that you are a safe place they can come to with any questions or concerns or anything that's going on in their life. And sometimes you have to be the one that kind of prods that along to open those dialogue questions. They don't. Your kids don't always volunteer that information just on their own. Sometimes
Right.
it takes just having that parental intuition of something's a little off here. So stepping in the gap and seeing how you can be a part of that. But then how do you also keep tabs on yourself and making sure that you are checking in also with yourself and using that intuition. And if someone else in your life is pointing it out to you,
Mm-hmm.
then listening with an honest and critical ear and not getting defensive and like, oh, you don't know anything, and storm off into your man cave and shut the door and live your solitary life again. But listen to your community. If someone's pointing out something to you, maybe it's something worthwhile. Like, okay, let me give that some thought and have some honesty with myself for a minute, and let's work on whatever is bothering me right now.
Right. So get involved in your church, get involved with men's groups, start a men group. A lot of things you can do to get community in your life. Reach out to dadschoolpodcast.com and send us a message if you need ideas on how to start that in your area, in your life. We'll be more than happy to help you brainstorm or just tell you what you should do. Either way, we're happy to do so. I think we're out of time now, Jimmy. We're out of time.
Out of time.
Wah wah. But we'll be back next week. I have a camping fishing trip with my sons happening this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I'll have lots of fun stories from that. Hopefully, when we come back.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. So stay tuned and like, subscribe, share. Miss anything?
Comment.
Be good dads and stay present.
That's all right.
Have a good week, guys. We'll talk to you next time.